In this video, you are going to learn how to create this cool scroll animation on your Framer website, and the best thing is that you don't need to write a single line of code to create this. Yes, this isn't Webflow, where you actually need to learn HTML and CSS to create something like this. This is Framer, which is basically a freaking dream for designers. If you know Figma or a similar app like that, you're gonna pick Framer app pretty quickly. So we're going to learn how sticky positioning works, how to apply scroll transforms to our frames, and how to trigger these animations with scroll sections. In order to follow along with this video, all you need is a free Framer account that you can create with the link in the description. In the description, you're going to also find a remix link for the project, so if you didn't understand something or you just want to take a look, feel free to remix the project. My name is Nandi, this is Framer University, and let's get started. Okay, so the story of this animation is that I wanted to recreate this scroll effect that we see on the CRED website, but unfortunately I wasn't able to do it exactly the way they did it here. First of all, I thought that this was created with Framer, but then I realized that it's not created with Framer, and I tried my best, but it seems like the closest you can get is something like this, which is still pretty cool, I think. So let's jump in and start creating the animation. So the first thing that I'm gonna do, as always, is that I'm gonna set this main breakpoint to a stack. So I'm gonna add a layout to it. The direction will be vertical, the distribute will be start, and the gap will be 0. And after this, we can create our first section. So I'm gonna draw a frame, and I'm gonna set the width to fill, and the height will be around 3500. I'm gonna rename it to section, and now as you can see, this section is really tall, however the desktop breakpoint is really small. So what I'm gonna do here is that I'm gonna select the desktop breakpoint, and I'm gonna set the height to fit content, so it always adapts to the height of the section or the content inside of the main desktop breakpoint, because as you can see, if I select the section and I duplicate it, it grows with the content inside. So this is a really great setup for the main desktop breakpoint and basically for each breakpoint, so making them a stack and setting the height to fit content. Let's see, what do we have to do with this first section. Of course, we're gonna create another frame inside of this section, and as you can see, I can move around this frame freely inside of this frame called section, but this isn't what we want. So we are gonna need to set the section to also a stack. So as you can see, in Framer we usually use stacks, and we usually add these layouts to most of the frames, so it is a really handy feature to learn. So now as you can see, we have this frame inside of this section, but I can't even find it because it's in the middle, it's in the center of the section. So we just need to change the distribute to start, and now as you can see, this is on the top. So I'm gonna rename this to hero, and basically it will have a fill width, and the height will be 100 VH, meaning that it will always take up the 100% of the given viewport. Okay, so if you take a look at the finished animation, you can see that this hero frame on top is basically staying on the top of the viewport as we scroll down the page. So the way we're gonna achieve this is we're gonna select the hero frame, and then the position will be set to sticky. So that's how you can achieve this effect, that as we scroll through the website, this hero frame is staying on top of the section. In order for sticky positioning to work, we're gonna need to set the section to overflow visible, and also the desktop to overflow visible. So basically all parent frames need to be set to overflow visible. So now if we give this a, I don't know, red fill color, we can see that if we preview this website and we start scrolling, it is staying on top of the viewport and it is not moving. So this is exactly what we want. But now I'm gonna just remove the fill color completely because we don't need that. I think we're gonna also remove the fill color of the section frame. Now we can actually add some content to this hero frame. Let's take a look at the finished animation to see what things we need to add to this hero frame. So as you can see, we have a video playing inside of the hero frame, and we also have text inside of the hero frame. So we're gonna add these to the hero frame. However, one really important thing here is that, as you can see, the effect is that this video is like kind of being masked down as we scroll. So this will be achieved by creating another frame inside of the hero. So let's just draw another frame inside of the hero section, and this frame will be set to absolute, and I'm going to activate all these pins and the values will be set to 0. So I'm going to give this a fill color so you can actually see what this does. So if we set these values to 0, it means that it will always stick to the sides of the frame. So this is also a pretty cool responsive layout. But now let's remove the fill color and rename this frame to video mask, because as I said, this is basically used for masking the video, and it will also contain the text. So just to make things a bit quicker, I'm just gonna copy the video from the completed project, and I'm just gonna paste it in here inside of the video mask frame. And as you can see, it's set to absolute, and again all these pins are activated and the values are set to 0. So basically, as we resize the viewport, it always sticks to the sides. So this is really cool. And we're gonna also get the text from here. So let's copy the text and just paste it in here. We're gonna set this text absolute positioning, and we're not gonna activate any of these pins this time. We're just gonna set this little dot right here, and this will basically mean that the text will always stay in the middle of the frame. So this is exactly what we want. So now what we have, if we preview this website, is basically this hero section. The video is playing, the text is there, and as we scroll, it is staying on top of the viewport. So far so good. But now we have to add the scroll transform effects so that the whole thing starts rotating and moving and scaling and all the good stuff. So let's do that. Okay, so the first thing, if you look at this finished animation, is that the video mask frame starts moving to the left. So as you can see, I'm scrolling and the whole frame is rotating to the left. That's what I wanted to say. So let's do just that. It's really easy to do. So we're just gonna have to apply an effect. The effect will be scroll transform, and the trigger will be section in view. So we actually need to create a scroll section first. So we're gonna select this section, and we're gonna just add a scroll section here, which we'll call hero. And now we can actually set this section as a trigger. We could also do this by on scroll. So we could also use on scroll as a trigger. However, I prefer the section in view because this will mean that this animation will transform the frame from the from state to the to state, from the beginning of the section to the end of the section. However, if we use on scroll as a trigger, that will mean that the animation from the from state to the to state will be happening from the top of the page to the bottom of the page. So if we have more sections under this section, it will, be a much longer animation. However, if we set this trigger to section in view and we select the hero, this will mean that this animation will only happen from the top of the section to the bottom of the selected section. So let's set the from state. Of course, the from state is 1 opacity. The scale is also 1, and basically that's it for the from state. And let's see what's the to state. So where do we want to go? Okay, so as you can see, we start rotating and we are scaling it down. So the to state will be setting the scale to 0 and the rotation to, let's say, -30. Okay, so this looks great. I'm gonna set the scale back to 0 and let's see what do we have right now. So as we start scrolling, this hero frame is start scaling down and rotating, but as you can see, everything is moving with it. So the video is also rotating and scaling down, and also the text does the same thing. But if you look at the finished animation, this isn't the case. So the text is not rotating, the video is not rotating, and it's not scaling. So how do we achieve that? Actually, it's pretty easy. We're just gonna have to select the video first and apply an effect. This will also be a scroll transform. The trigger will be section in view, and we're gonna select the hero section, so you know the trigger is the same. We're gonna also apply the transition so it will be smooth. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna basically counter the animation that is happening for the whole frame. So the whole frame is rotating to the left. So what we're gonna do with the video is we're gonna rotate it to the right. So the from state is 1 opacity and 1 scale, and the to state is 30 rotation to the right, because as you remember, we rotated the whole frame to the left. So if we want to counter that, we're gonna need to rotate the video to the right. So let's give this a preview. Now as you can see, this is really weird, but it looks, I don't know, it looks not bad, but I honestly don't know why is this happening. So let's think about it for a second. What the fuck is this? Okay, so I might know what's the issue here. So as you can see, the video is not rotating, so we achieved that. However, as you remember, we are scaling the frame down, so the video is also scaling it down. So we're gonna also have to counter the scale effect. So we are not only gonna change the rotation here and counter the rotation, but we're gonna also scale this whole thing up, because the frame is scaling down. So to counter that, we're gonna need to scale up the video. So let's take a look at how this looks right now. And yeah, it's much better. Maybe we need to scale it a bit more to have a nicer effect. So let's say scale it up by 3, and let's check this out. It looks great. However, as you can see, when we start scrolling, the scale kind of stays at the same value, but as we start scaling it more down, the video also starts scaling down. So that's why I couldn't actually achieve the exact effect, because for some reason when we are trying to counter the scale effect, it doesn't really work as accurately as the rotation counter, because as you can see, the rotation is not changing at all, so we can completely counter that. But the scale effect is not really counterable. I don't know if that's a word, but as you can see, at the end, towards the end, it starts scaling down. But that's not an issue here, because we still have a cool effect. I'm just gonna check out what scale effect I used. I used 4 on the original, so I'm gonna also use 4 here. So let's take a look. So as you can see, now we are kind of countering the rotation and the scale too. And we're gonna basically do the same thing for the text. So we're gonna apply the scroll transform effect. We're gonna set it to section in view. We're gonna select the hero section, add the transition. The from state is 1 opacity, 1 scale. The to state is a rotation of 30 to counter the rotation. And the scale is also a bit bigger. I don't know what exactly I used, but let's experiment with this value. Okay, let's check out what we used here. So I'm using a scale of 3 here, so let's use 3 on the text. And what you can also notice on the finished website is that the text is also losing its opacity, so we are decreasing the opacity. So we're just gonna add it to the to effect. We are gonna select the text and let's change the to opacity to 0. So now as you can see, as we scroll down, everything works really nicely. But this is just the first part of the whole thing, because we also have a text coming in from the background. So as you can see on this animation, as we scroll down, everything here in the hero is scaling down, rotating to the left, and then from the background we have the same text scaling in nicely, and yeah, basically that's the effect. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create another frame here. So let's just duplicate this hero here. I'm gonna change the section gap to 0 here, so we don't have space between the frames here. And I'm gonna change this to BG text. Okay, so we are not gonna have a video mask in here, but a text. And I'm gonna remove the video, and basically we're gonna have the same text but with a black color. Now if we give it a preview, you can see that this is not really working. So what we need to do is to somehow position this black text to the same place as the first section. But how are we gonna achieve that? It's pretty easy. We're just gonna set the BG text from sticky to absolute, and we're gonna set these values to 0, so the top and the left and the right. So now as you can see, it's on the top. However, it's not only on the top, but it's on the top of the other layers too. So we're gonna solve this by removing this z-index property here. So now as you can see, it's in the background. So let's give this a preview now. As you can see, it's in the background, but you can spot it on the top of the viewport that it is scrolling away. So we still need to have the sticky behavior some way. So we're just gonna wrap this text in a frame by pressing Option, Command and Enter. We're gonna call this sticky, and let's set the positioning to sticky. But as you can see, we cannot set it to sticky. It's because the BG text doesn't have a layout added to it. So we're gonna add the layout to it. I'm gonna set the gap to 0, and now as you can see, we can set the sticky frame to sticky. And now as you can see, as we set it to sticky, now again this text is on top of everything, because again it got this z-index property automatically. So we're gonna remove that, and now let's give this a preview. So as you can see, it's still scrolling away. It's because how sticky works is that it will stay sticky until the end of the parent section. We're gonna just need to increase the BG text frame's height. So it basically is gonna have the same height as the section, so 3500. So let's just paste it right here and change it to fixed, and 3500. And also we're gonna have to set the overflow to visible here, so that's also why it is not working. And now as you can see that this frame grow bigger, the sticky frame is in the middle. It's because the layout options on the BG text is set to distribute center, so we're gonna just change that to start, and also we're gonna set the direction to vertical. So now as you can see, it's back on the top. So let's give this a preview now. As you can see, it works pretty cool. However, one thing is not working because it's not exactly in the center of the viewport. So we're gonna just fix that by selecting this text frame. And as you can see, it has a fixed width and a fixed height. So that's why it's not adapting to the viewport. So we're gonna just change this to absolute, and I'm gonna just set these values to 0, which are already set to 0, which is pretty cool. Thanks Framer for doing that for me. And I'm gonna remove the z-index again because it's now again on the top. So let's give this a preview now, and as you can see, it's still not in the middle. So I'm gonna just investigate the issue right here. So it's still not responsive. So let's then see what this sticky frame has. And yeah, as you can see, the problem is that it also has a fixed height, so we're gonna change it to 100 VH. And now if everything is okay, yeah, as you can see, this works perfectly. So the text is in the middle. Okay, so if we take a look at the original animation, you can see that the text from the background is actually also scaling in. So we're gonna just do that really easily. Let's go to the text, and as you can see, this text has some scroll transform set, so I think we can remove this because it's nothing important. So let's remove this, and let's go to the text here, select it, and The from state will be basically a little bit scaled down version of the text, so let's say 0.5, and the to state is the 1 opacity, 1 scale, and the rotation is set back to 0. So let's take a look now. So as you can see, it doesn't work. I'm pretty shocked. Why is that? Let's go back to the animation and see why the scroll transfer doesn't work. It's pretty easy. The reason is because we didn't set the section here. So let's set it to hero. And now if we give it a preview, you can see that it works just as we want it to work. So yeah, this is the animation, but just to make it a bit more complete, we're gonna add an additional section to it, as you can see on the original animation. After this, we have this little text here, so let's make it really quick. So I'm gonna just select the section, duplicate it. I'm gonna change the name of the scroll section to second, and I'm gonna remove this hero here. We're just gonna keep this BG text here. The section will be set to fit content, and the BG text will be set to relative positioning, and the height will be 100 VH. Okay, this is sticky, which we don't need, so I'm just gonna remove that. And the scroll effect, okay, we're gonna care about that later. I'm just gonna get the text from the original file here, so let's copy that and paste it in here. Let's change the width to a fixed number. Okay, so this looks great. Now let's give this a preview. And as you can see, as we scroll right here, we see the text appearing on the screen. And it also has this nice scroll effect here, as you can see. As we scroll through the text, it scales in. I actually like it. It's by mistake because we duplicated the previous section and this text already has this scroll transform set. But yeah, I quite like it, so I think we're gonna keep it like this. And there is one last thing that we are gonna do, because as we look at the original animation, you can see that this text right here in the middle is fading out as we scroll down. So the way we're gonna achieve that is by selecting that text, and I'm gonna edit the scroll transform properties here. I'm gonna add another section because we have the second section here. So I'm gonna say that, okay, when you reach the second section, go to 0 opacity, or start going to 0 opacity, of course, nice and slowly. So now as you can see, it starts losing its opacity, and now we see the second section with the text. So yeah, this is the animation, and as you can see, it's very easy to do with Framer, and it's kind of amazing that we didn't have to write a single line of code basically to create this scroll effect. So yeah, this is how you can create this scroll animation in Framer without writing a single line of code. Make sure to check out the description to find the remix link, Framer University, and other useful resources that will help you learn everything about Framer. So that's it for this tutorial. Make sure to like it and subscribe for more, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.